Did you know for Attack of the Clones was the first film to ever film on digital, with George Lucas pushing hard to make this happen, as it cut down looking at dailies at the end of the night by 2 to 4 hours. The push was finally made for Attack of the Clones to actually be filmed digitally, whereas in Phantom Menace, they still had to film on regular film as the technology was not ready yet, and Phantom Menace was the first film to be projected on a digital screen. Samuel Jackson asked for a purple lightsaber. That way he would be able to find himself in the Battle of Geonosis arena. The shot where Yoda says, "Begun the Clone Wars has," became known as the Widowmaker for the visual effects artists at ILM, saying that was the most complicated and hardest shot to get right in all of Attack of the Clones, as to get the subtleties of the fact that Yoda was upset and contemplative all at the same time. Episode 2 began filming 3 years to the day Episode 1 began filming. George and Anthony Daniels were the only ones on set for the Lars homestead that were there back in 1976 for the first Star Wars. The crew had to rely on blueprints and George and Anthony's memories to recreate the set of the Lars homestead. On the first day, the power went out on the new cameras. The first scene filmed was actually cut from the movie and features Chancellor Palpatine announcing to the Senate there was an assassination attempt on Padme's life, which is interesting because the first scene filmed for Return of the Jedi was cut as well. Anthony Daniels, C-3PO, asked to be featured as a cameo in Attack of the Clones as this was his 5th Star Wars movie and he had not shown his face. When Ahmed Best, Jar Jar Binks, heard this, he asked for a cameo as well, and they both raced to the extras' costumes to see if they could get a costume in time to be in the club scene. This is interesting because now Ahmed Best actually also plays Kelleran Beck, which makes you wonder, is Kelleran Beck undercover in this scene? In the casting search to find a young Boba Fett, Tamora Morrison was driving with casting director Robin Gurland very fast across the streets in New Zealand and was pulled over by a police officer. Tamora Morrison replied with, "It's your lucky day, officer. I have with me the casting director for Star Wars Episode 2. I can get you a role in Star Wars Episode 2. And much to his surprise, the police officer still gave him a ticket. Yoda vs. Dooku was the only battle scene in Attack of the Clones that only made 80% ILM's satisfaction, which is surprising because the scene looks amazing and still holds up incredibly today. Attack of the Clones is the longest Star Wars prequel. The DVD checkers, who check to make sure everything is right before a DVD is shipped out, called many times because with the scene with the seismic charges, they kept being concerned that the audio went out. Tamora Morrison has revealed the battle in the rain was very difficult in the Mandalorian armor, as the rain fogged up his helmet and it was hard for him to see while he was battling Obi-Wan Kenobi. ILM convinced George to create a CGI Yoda by animation director Rob Coleman, putting a CGI Yoda over key scenes in Empire Strikes Back to show how realistic they could get it. This finally convinced George that he could now use a CGI Yoda in Star Wars, and therefore he began to create a scene with a lightsaber fight. The elevator talk between Obi-Wan and Anakin was added in reshoots much later at another studio and was not originally in the film. The film filmed pickup shots at Elstree Studio, also known as George Lucas's lucky charm for the Star Wars film. The camera weighed 200 pounds. It being the first film to film on digital, the first digital camera weighed 200 pounds. It was very difficult to move. Therefore, there is not much camera movement in Attack of the Clones. John Knoll, visual effects supervisor for Attack of the Clones, decided to use a real model for the Geonosis arena. In doing so, to get all the shots needed, this required them to have day shifts and night shifts to get all the shots needed 24/7 for all of the Geonosis arena scenes. Not a single clone trooper suit was made, and all the clone trooper armor in Attack of the Clones is CGI. The very last shot filmed was a shot of Obi-Wan beginning the chase after Zam Wesell. Christopher Lee was in his 80s when he filmed Attack of the Clones. Yarael Poof was removed from Attack of the Clones because he was deemed too confusing because he looked too much like Kaminoans. The film finished its final cut April 10th and had a preview screening that day with the cast and crew.